Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about three ideas that I think are very helpful. I've been thinking about them a lot lately, which means that I'll be able to uh, share everything that's been on my mind a little better because everything has been more. The things that have been happening in my life lately have um, required me to keep these in mind. First one is listening. All of all three of these ideas I got from Jordan Peterson, but I've been working on them on my own. Um, I feel like I've learned a few. Uh, I've had a few experiences, and I've thought about these three things to the point where I can. Uh, at least I feel like I understand them a little better. So I might as well tell you all three up front so you know what you're getting into. The first one is listening. The second is responsibilities. The third is the idea that you have to aim up and then live in the moment. I'm not going to get into the I'm not going to get into how these ideas developed because Jordan talks about them on a much deeper level than I can. But I can talk about the things that I have learned in relation to these things. When it comes to listening, if you know how to listen to somebody such that you can hear the strongest points that they're making and you understand their perspective in this in a way that you understand the most uh, convincing aspects of what they're saying. If you can do that and do that continually, then, well, in my experience, that's how you can turn yourself firstly into a person who always knows what the strongest points of everyone's perspective is, which makes you it makes you a person who can essentially, well, one thing it stops is you're not going to, if you do that and you do that properly, and that means listening, it means making sure that you understand what the other person is saying. In order to do that, you have to be willing to change yourself. In light of ideas that are better than yours. And that means that you concede, essentially. You are right, and I've made a mistake. That's what good listening is characterized by. You un- it's not always just that because, of course, once you have a good idea, then, well, it means you have a good idea, and it's not necessarily your idea, it's somebody else's idea. But okay, I've spent enough time on listening. I think that's probably a good place to stop it. To summarize, what is a good explanation of what good listening is you're making the strongest case for what the other person is saying, and the most effective way of um, ensuring that you're doing that, leaving no leeway for your own um, cowardice, maybe is the right way of putting it, because if you're not doing that and you're avoiding that, well, it's not just cowardice. It can be a lot of different things. It's understandable why you'd want to not change your mind on something, but you want to look at what the other person is saying. I might as well just say that you should do exactly what Jordan suggests. What he suggests is you listen to the other person as if they know something you don't. That's the essence of it. Uh, well, there's a whole lot more to it than that. I'll move on to the second part, the responsibilities idea. Now, he always talks about responsibilities, and I've come to realize that it hasn't been so easy for me to realize what I'm supposed to be responsible for, or what I'm willing to be responsible for. Um, because to me, initially, it wasn't obvious. But English, something I realized by listening better after a very long time of trying to listen a little better, um, a little bit at a time. Eventually, I, well, very recently, I was listening to a person speak about something that was important to both of us, and I realized that I could discern out of their words what they may have wanted from me. And then I thought about the idea of responsibilities. If you hear somebody telling you something and you have the sense that they're asking you to do something, now you might not want to say yes to that because it depends, I decided to be honest about whether or not I actually wanted to do what the person said they wanted me to do. But just because I said that I may not have wanted to do it doesn't mean that I didn't end up doing it or shouldn't have done it. After listening, even after putting my objections forth, that person still wanted me to help in the way that they were describing. I realized that that can be a responsibility of mine, and maybe it might be something that I wasn't originally prepared to do, but it can be a responsibility. And if I thought about it and what they were saying made sense and what I was saying had a flaw in, I had a flaw in my thinking. This has gone on for too long. Anyway, the point is, somebody, if you get the sense that somebody wants you to do something that might be a responsibility, well, you might be able to notice that that's a responsibility. Um, anyway, not everyone has that experience. I'm just slow. So Anyway, the third part, aim up and live in the moment, and then live in the moment. This is again exactly what Jordan Peterson says, and I feel like I've come to understand it within the context of my own life. Um, when it comes to conducting myself properly, the best way to do that is to consider that correct, given everything I know, which is a weird way of explaining that. It's like first assume it's right and then act it out and then it'll work, which is weird. Anyway, the idea is you assume that what's best for you is what's best for you. You make it your goal to do whatever seems to um, contribute to that pursuit, and then you pay attention to what's happening around you. You want to do good for yourself and others, um, for whatever that means. That's your goal. Now look around you and pay attention to what you could do, and pay attention to what people are saying. Pay attention to what you're doing and what you're thinking. And maybe you'll notice something slightly different happening in your soul, so to speak. That's a good word to use. The word psyche means the word soul. That's half of the word psychology. So think about your thoughts and emotions as you conduct that little thought exercise, and you might notice something a little different. And then maybe you act that out a little bit, and maybe you treat people a little different. You think about you and what you're doing a little different. You consider where you might be needing some improvement. Um, and then maybe you move forward and you do a whole lot of good. And every now and then, maybe you'll slip up, and maybe you'll try to do something and it doesn't work out because you're resisting the way that's good by your own definition. And then you realize it's not working, and eventually you run into a small wall, or maybe you fall off a very large cliff. Hopefully not. That's probably not very comfortable. But you can come to realize that if you take how your life and how other people's lives in relation to your life, how they're affected by your actions and your thoughts and your behaviors, you might you might be able to, well, you might consider the idea that you should set something high as your aim and then pay attention. Maybe that'll work. I hope this was interesting to listen to, and hopefully I've provided you with something. Voice crack. Um, Jordan Peterson will do a good job of explaining all of these things. Um, but for now, that's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.